Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
What we discussed last class, basically that for a damped SDOF system, what is the response? Okay, the equation of motion was written as mu double dot plus cu dot plus ku, and that should be equal to Pt, and for a harmonic excitation we represented this as P naught sine of omega t. All right, and we tried to obtain the solution to this one. Okay, we recognize that the solution using the initial conditions u dot 0 and u0, we said that we can theoretically obtain it, but there is no need to it. We said that I'm going to write my ut as solution to the homogeneous part or the complementary solution as this here. Okay. And then there was the particular solution which I wrote as this. Okay, and we said that based on our discussion that this solution reduces to 0 after some time. We call it transient solution. Okay, so the total solution consists of transient solution and steady state solution. My steady state solution, the C and D, we derived the expressions for that. Okay, the value of C and D, we derived the expressions as P naught by K, which I could also write as like, UST naught, peak static displacement. But let me write it like this. Okay. And then D we obtained as okay, these two expressions were there. Now we said that the total solution consists of transient solution and steady state solution. Okay, and transient solution dies after some time. So we are going to basically allocate our focus on the steady state solution, because that is the, for any realistic system, that is the solution that would actually survive after sufficient amount of time. Okay, and that is what we are going to study, with a warning that the maximum response might still be determined by the transient plus steady at the beginning of the motion. Okay, so we've said that we are going to further deal with the steady state solution, and I'm going to write it as C sine omega t plus D cos omega t. Okay, so it would be C square plus D square. Okay, I can write it in the form. Remember, what is sine A minus B? It is sine A cos B minus cos A sine B. So if I write it like this and write this one as sine of omega t times C by C plus D square minus cos omega t times minus. So I'm just taking the minus sign I out. So there's still the same expression. Okay, and I can write this as C square plus D square sine omega t minus phi. Okay, where this one is basically cos phi. And we're comparing with this. And sine phi is the second term, which is minus d divided by c square plus d square, such that my tan phi becomes minus d by c. Okay. Now, substituting the value of c and d from these two expressions, you can easily derive what is the final value of c square plus d square under root and what is tan phi. Okay, so you would see that I get c square plus d square. If I simplify this, I would get as p naught by k times 1 divided by the same expression that we had in denominator, and there is nothing on the numerator now. Okay, and tan phi would be minus d by c, okay, which would give me 2 zeta omega n. Okay, and in the denominator I would get as 1 minus omega by omega n square. Okay, now this I can write is as p naught by k as ust naught, and the second term is basically rd. Now rd is what? It's deformation modification factor, okay, which basically represents the ratio of dynamic displacement, peak displacement versus static peak displacement, which you can see it from here. Okay, this value is nothing but u naught, let us say, which is like, dynamic peak displacement, because the peak value of the function u naught sine of omega t minus phi is actually u naught. Okay, so u naught is equal to ust naught. So rd is basically dynamic by static peak values. Okay, so this is the expression for rd. Okay. Similarly, we have another parameter phi, which is called the phase angle, and it can be obtained as a tan inverse function of this. Now, you very well understood what is the physical significance of RD here, right? Basically, RD represents if you apply a harmonic load with respect to if the system would have responded as a static system without any mass, right? So what is the static response for a system? It is always applied force divided by the stiffness, no effect of the mass. Okay, so basically this is the static response. And this is the ust naught that is coming here. Okay, so basically RD is if the system would have responded statically compared to if I include the mass, and if the motion is governed by the equation of motion we have discussed, and I obtain the peak dynamic displacement as u naught, how much is the amplification or reduction in the response because of the dynamic characteristic of the system. So RD represents a kind of an amplification factor, you can say, or reduction factor. Generally we call it response modification factor because it can increase or decrease both, as we saw for the undamped case. Now phi represents, okay, it represents, remember that you are applying a load pt, which is nothing but p naught sine omega t. Okay, so if you try to draw this function p naught sine omega t, let us say it starts at 0, okay, and then it varies sinusoidally as per the. Now the response what I have here is basically the response is nothing but ut equal to u naught sine omega t minus phi. So this and this actually differs by this angle here. Okay, and this angle is what is called a phase angle. Okay, so depending upon the value of phi, the response ut might lag behind the pt, or it might, depending upon the value of phi, like it would lag behind or go ahead of this function. Okay, so it might be, let us say, example might be, let us say the pt starts at 0, so the response might start at some time later. Okay, it would be shifted by something. Okay, this graph need not to be scaled because, so this here, this is called the time lag, and it is given in terms of the angle phi. Basically, what is this point? As we said, this is the point at which your ut becomes 0, right? When does ut become 0? When sine omega t minus phi is actually 0. And the first solution, I mean, it would be repeated after every time. So there would be multiple solution, but the first solution would be when omega t minus phi is equal to 0. Okay, and that gives you time as phi. Okay, omega you can write as 2 pi by t. So it would be t times phi divided by 2 pi. Okay, this is the time lag. Okay, based on the phase angle. So phase angle basically represents the lag in the motion with respect to the applied excitation. Okay, so lag in the motion of here it would be displacement. Okay, how far behind the response is compared to the excitation. Are these two concepts clear to you? Response modification factor and the phase lag. Anybody has any doubt in terms of physically what does these quantity mean? Anyone?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So Dhanashree here.
Yeah,
Can you,
Dhanush.
once again explain this.
The
how
phase
you
lag?
yes, how you derive it.
Okay. Basically derivation. I mean, you want the expression for tan phi or the phi, or do you want this expression here? How did I get it?
Yes, this one.
Okay. So I'm basically saying, look, there is a function pt, a force that is being applied, and then there would be response to it. Now, sine omega t is a function which is 0 at time t equal to 0, correct? pt,
Yes.
pt is basically 0 at time equal to 0, so it starts at 0. However, what is the value of u0 here at t equal to 0? It is u0 sine phi minus u0 sine phi. So it's not exactly 0, right? Let us say it starts at this point, correct? This is the value of u0. So it is negative, so it starts at this point, and then it will cross the x-axis at some point. So the pt initially crossed the x-axis at t equal to 0. However, my ut would cross after some time here t, and I don't know what that time is. How do I get that time? Well, I can simply say that I want to find out when ut is equal to 0, because that is the point when ut would actually intersect the x-axis. So that is basically what I'm doing. I substitute ut equal to 0. That means sine omega t minus phi equal to 0. Okay, so that's why phi I calculate using this expression, or the time I calculate using this expression. Okay, maybe I should write it like this. Is that clear? How did we get it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Any confusion? All right. If that is clear, what I want you to do, let us consider three cases. Okay, let us consider three cases for a system that has, let us say, damping of 0.2 or 20%, let us say. Okay, what I want you to do, give me the value of RD and phi for omega by omega n equal to 0.5, omega by omega n is equal to 1, and omega by omega n equal to 2. Okay, give me the value of RD and phi for all of these. Okay, and then just try to plot it, or let me know whether how much would be the phase difference between the applied excitation. Okay, in terms of whether it would in the same direction, whether PT and UT would be in the same direction or in the opposite direction. So three things: RD, value of RD, value of phi, and whether PT and UT would be in the same direction or opposite direction. Okay, so take 5 minutes and then try to solve this problem and let me know the answer. Okay. Anyone with the answer? What is the value of RD? Let me just write it here. What is the value of RD when omega by omega n is equal to 0.5?
1.288.
1.288. And what is the value of phi?
14.93 degree.
And how about when omega by omega n is equal to 1?
RD is
2.5.
Okay. What is the value of phi?
90 degree.
Yeah, what is
By
it?
90 degree.
90 degree.
90 degrees, correct. How about RD is equal to when omega by omega n is equal to 2?
0.32.
0.
Yes, what is it?
0.3.
0.32.
3, 2. Okay. And 5?
minus 14.93.
Okay, I've got an answer minus 14.93. Is that correct?
Sir, Tushar here.
Yeah.
Sir, it can be expressed as a 194.93.
Yes, it can be. Do you guys know how to get the arc like inverse of tan? Do you remember that quadrant? Because you cannot always express tan inverse. Okay, typically what we do, we write it in between either minus 90 to 90 degree or minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. But if you want to express it like in appropriate quadrant, what do? You look at the sign of y, the numerator, and sign of x, and then you decide what should be the value of tan inverse, correct? That is the accurate method, the fundamental principle. Okay, and it is especially important for tan inverse function. So what you see here, when you substitute the value of omega by omega n is equal to 2, let me write it. It would be tan inverse some positive value divided by 1 minus 2 square, which is how much? Tan inverse again 2 times 0.2 times 2 divided by minus 3. So my x is negative and y is positive. So I am in this quadrant here. Okay. So the value would be basically based on here. Is that clear to all of you? Somewhere around here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what would that value be? I think 180 minus 14.93.
165.07.
Okay, 165.07. All right. Is this clear to you what I'm doing here? This is nothing new. Now, not a new concept to you. You might have forgotten your undergraduate mathematics, but this is basically how do we get the inverse of tan function if they are the numerator and denominator are of opposite signs. Okay. All right. So I got these three cases. Now, based on this one, can you tell me in this case whether my PT and UT are in same direction or opposite direction? What will happen here? If my phi is this much, how much would the lag be? It means that PT is sine omega t and UT is sine omega t minus 14.93 degree. If you want to write in terms of, let us say radians, then you simply multiply this pi by 180 degree to get it in terms of radian. So it is lagging behind by this much. So some small amount it is lagging behind. In the second case, it is lagging behind by 90 degree. In the third case, what is happening? It is lagging substantially by 180 degree. Now, in terms of graph, what it would mean? Let me again draw it here for three cases. I'm saying my PT is always the same. First case, it is lagging behind a small angle, this one. Okay, not by much. However, in the second case, it is lagging behind 90 degree. 90 degree means what? It means when this PT goes to basically its maximum value, right? Your UT would be 0. Okay, and vice versa. Okay. This is what it means. So here again it is 0, then UT is maximum. That is what lagging behind means. Okay. So this is basically whatever the value you got, which was, I think it was 90 degree. Okay. So you can easily find out T as time times phi divided by 2 pi. Okay, how much it is lagging behind, and that in this case would be T times pi by 2 because it is 90 degree and times 2 pi. Okay, which gives you T by 4. And T by 4 is what? Precisely this time here. Isn't this? Is this the T by 4 or not? 1/4 of the total time period. Remember, this time period is this much. This is my T here. Okay. Similarly, for the third one, what we will see that it is lagging behind by close to 165 degrees. Okay. So it would almost be opposite. Not exactly, because for exact, it had to be 180 degree. If it is lagging behind by 165 degrees, what will happen? It would be something like this. Okay, this is my PT here, and this is UT. Of course, the amplitude of this PT and UT would be different. This is just to show the time variation. Is this clear to all of you? Anybody has any doubt in this? I will repeat again, if any of you have not understood this concept, RD and basically whatever you are getting, the phase difference as phi. Okay, and RD is basically what? Okay, if you are plotting this as UT by UST naught, then basically this would represent as RD. Okay, and this would represent amplitude as RD. If you are plotting it like that, if you are just plotting UT, then this would be RD times UST naught, the maximum value. Okay, is this clear to all of you? Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to open up the MATLAB to show you the exact variation. So what I have shown you is basically a temporal variation, like, you know, an approximate variation. So let me go ahead to MATLAB. So I've written a code for the same. Okay, you should do the same thing. Write a code for it. Okay, do it yourself. Your concepts will become absolutely clear when you have to write the code, because the thing about code is that it won't work, right? Unless you have written it correctly, you won't be able to get the answer. Now I will run this and I will show you the exact variation. Let us forget about the second graph for the time being. One thing I've just plotted, the first two I've plotted as UT, and the third one is I've plotted is actually UT by this. Maybe what I should do, let me close this, and instead of plotting that, what I will do, I will plot basically RD, or here, okay, I'm going to plot UST divided by UST naught. Okay, and I'm going to plot UT divided by UST naught. So static displacement variation, which would be same as the applied force. So I could very well have written like, you know, PT here, doesn't matter. I could write it as PT, but UST has the same variation, static displacement. So I'm just writing that as here. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to plot the ratios. So what I want to do, whatever the value you have got for RD, I just want to match with my MATLAB code to see if I get the same value or not. Okay. So here I will also change. And here I'm also going to change. And I will run it again. Not this. Yeah. So can you see in the first one, the value is coming out to be Y value is 1.288. That is the value of RD that you have got, correct? In the second, if you look at it, I'm getting as around 2.5, the value of RD, 2.48 it is giving. Okay, so same as what we have got for value of RD. And in the third one, remember orange is the dynamic displacement. Okay, I am getting as 0.32. Okay, so this is the exact variation. What do we see? First one, my force or the static displacement starts at 0, the blue line, and my dynamic displacement actually follows this one by through a time lag of this much, and that time lag I can get here as 0.068, or let us say 0.07 second. In the third one, it is actually 0.12. That should be equal to the 1/4 of the time period. And in the third one again, I can see that this goes to 0 at some value here, okay, which is close to 0.11 second. Okay, so depending on these, you can find out how much is the time lag between the applied force and the response function. Everybody clear about this? Okay, so these are two important parameters, okay, RD and phi, that represents the dynamic characteristic of a system. Okay, and these are utilized very frequently to design many systems. Okay, so now we have drawn the displacement modification factor, okay, for basically different type of system for undamped system, right? For undamped system, we saw that it was something like, okay, unbounded at omega equal to omega n, okay, and then it was going like this, and the phase angle was something like this. It goes something like this. Okay, now let us do it for damped system. Let us see how does it look like. Okay, so I'm again going to plot a similar graph. Going to draw this graph actually. Let us see how does it look like. Okay, so this is my RD, which I'm defining as dynamic displacement, peak displacement by peak static displacement. This is the frequency ratio is plotted on the horizontal axis. Okay. All right. So what happens now? Again, let me write the expression for RD. When omega by omega n is very small, like when it is approaching 0, what happens to the value of RD? We saw in the first case, right? When omega by omega 1 was equal to 0.5, what happens to RD? It is actually greater than 1. However, if you keep increasing the value of omega by or decreasing the, first let us focus on decreasing the value of omega by omega n. Okay, if it is very small, okay, let us say here, you will see RD is actually close, approaching to the value of 1. So it starts from here like the case of undamped, and for a very large value of RD, okay, when it is going to very large, my RD actually, sorry, when omega by omega and the frequency ratio becomes very high. Okay, maybe instead of saying that, I should say very large. RD actually approaches to 0. So it approaches to 0 somewhere here. Okay. The third point to consider is when omega by omega n is equal to 1. Now for undamped case, we saw that RD was actually becoming unbounded. The response was actually infinity. Okay, I should not say equal to infinity, it was approaching a very large number. Okay, now in this case, what happens when I substitute this, RD does not become infinity. RD, which is equal to this U0 by UST naught, it actually becomes 2 by zeta. You substitute the value of omega by omega n equal to 1 and you see what do you get here. You'll get 1 by 2 zeta. So it is actually not unbounded, but it is actually decided by whatever the zeta that you are defining. Okay, in this case, let us say if it's a 10% damping, 0.1, then it would become 1 by 0.2. So it would become something around 5. Okay, so it would still be a large number, and with how large it is, that depends on this frequency ratio. Okay, and as you increase this frequency ratio, okay, what will happen? RD would decrease at the value of omega by omega n. So can I say that there won't be a single curve in this case? There would be multiple curves for RD, and that depends, multiple curves would depend on the value of zeta. For zeta equal to 0, this would be same as an undamped system. Okay, something like this. As you have non-zero value of damping or zeta, it won't become unbounded. It would be a high value, but it won't be unbounded. Okay, and it would be something like this. As you increase the value of damping, the peak at omega by omega n would actually decrease, and so on. Okay, if you keep increasing it, at some point it would become something like this. Okay, so let us say this is either 0 or very small value of damping. Okay, let us say this is damping equal to 1, and this is 0.1, or this is damping equal to, let us say, 0.2, and so on. Okay, you can assume this is damping equal to 0.5, and you can plot these things. Okay, you can plot these things using any either Excel or MATLAB or whatever software you prefer. Okay, this is a critically damped system. Similarly, the phase angle, which is tan inverse 2 zeta omega by omega n. Okay, when it is a very small value, okay, again, as you can imagine, for different value of zeta, I would have different curves. Let us first consider zeta equal to 0, which corresponds to undamped case. And for undamped case, let us draw phi here. This was 90 degree, this was 180 degree. So for undamped case, it was, if omega by omega n was smaller than 1, it was 0. And if it was greater than 1, it was 180 degree. So it was like a step function. Okay. In this case, as you increase the damping, it would gradually become something like this. Okay. For increasing value of damping. All right. These two parameters are clear to you, RD and phi. Let us discuss some extreme cases, like some bounding cases. Remember that in the first class we talked about what happens if a very high frequency or a very fast moving force impacts a very solid or rigid object, and what happens if a very slowly moving object, okay, impacts a flexible object. All those questions were asked to you. Okay, let us discuss some of those scenarios. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to discuss 3 scenarios. In the first scenario, basically is the one that we've considered. Omega by omega n is much smaller than 1 or tending to 0. That means T by Tn is greater than 1. What does it mean? T by Tn is greater than 1. It means time period of the applied force. Okay, time period of the applied force is much greater than the time period of the structure. All right. And one example would be that you have a very, very rigid column like this, and then a very long motion, basically force is being applied to this one. Okay, this we call slowly varying force, because applied force, the time period is so high, it is called slowly varying force. In that case, what will happen if the force is varying very slowly? As you move the structure in this direction, then this direction, then this direction, then this direction, the structure would actually follow the movement. If you apply it very slowly, push it, then pull it, push it, and then pull it, that motion is applied very slowly. Okay, so it is called slowly varying force. And in that case, for this value, we obtained that RD is actually approaching to 1. And that you can physically imagine here. If you apply the force very slowly, your structure would move in tandem with the force that you are applying. So there is no something like a dynamic amplification here, is it? I mean, you are taking the structure and you're applying a force that is very, very slow. So the structure is moving together with you. So first, there won't be any dynamic amplification, and our phi was actually 0 in this case. Remember, phi in this case was actually, well, you can directly calculate phi from this expression. If omega by omega n is equal to 0, then your phi is actually 0. That means your PT and UT are in phase. Okay, I should not write this sign. PT, UT are in phase. In phase means that whatever the applied force that you are applying, your UT is also moving in tandem with this. Okay, So there is very small or negligible phase difference between the applied force and the deformation. Okay. And what happens to RD? If RD is equal to 1, my dynamic amplification, as I said, U naught divided by the static amplification is 1. And U naught is basically UST naught equal to P naught by K, which is like, which could be understood. Let us say you take a spring, and if you apply a force very slowly, this mass does not come into picture. So whatever the deformation you will have, that would be basically the applied maximum, the peak deformation, applied maximum force versus this spring constant. Okay, so this is called slowly varying force, for which RD is equal to 1. No dynamic amplification is there. There is no phase difference, or the applied force and the response are totally in phase. Okay, and your dynamic displacement as static displacement. So the response is controlled by the stiffness of the system. Okay, so this is one extreme case when a very slowly varying force is being applied to a system. Let us consider the second bounding case, which is omega by omega n is greater than 1. Okay, which means T by Tn is less than 1. Now what it means, that your load is varying at a very high frequency corresponding to the frequency of the system. So to get a physical meaning of this, again let me draw the same structure. Now in this case, instead of having this variation, in this case it is like this. Okay, very fast moving load is being applied here. Okay, so that I get this. This is called rapidly varying force. This is called rapidly varying force. I have mass m here. Now in this case, what happens when omega by omega n is much greater than 1? If you substitute in the expression for RD, RD actually would be tending towards a very small quantity, let us say 0. And that is evident from the graph as well. As you increase the value of omega by omega n, okay, the value of RD actually approaches to a very small quantity. Okay, so RD tends to be basically a very small value. And in this case, my phi is basically tan inverse, okay, some quantity, okay, which in this case, let us say here 2 zeta times omega by omega n. Remember that when omega by omega n is very high, then this denominator, which have the second power of omega by omega n, it varies in the negative direction at a much faster rate than the numerator, which have the first order omega by omega n term here. So it would become something like some quantity which is finite divided by some quantity which is negative infinite. Okay, and this gives me a value of basically phi, which is equal to 180 degree, not 0. Okay, had it this been going in like positive infinite, then I would have got 0. Now because it is in third quadrant, it is 180 degree. Okay, or sorry, second quadrant or third quadrant. I mean, you can consider from, because it is going, if you consider the one that we had drawn here, it is going from somewhere from along this direction. Okay, so your y is actually denominator is actually negative. Denominator here was x, so it is in here, and then y is actually positive, the numerator. So yeah, it is in second quadrant. I stand corrected. Okay, it is in second quadrant. So you get as 180 degree. Now what does 180 degree means? 180 degree means that as you move the structure, okay, as basically again on the same thing, when it completes one cycle, okay, this one is basically in the opposite direction and it would move opposite at each and every point. So the response would be opposite. Whatever the small response that you would get, response would be very small here, but still if you had to basically find out the phase difference, UT is out of phase by 180 degree. Okay, so 180 degree means, okay, if Basically, this is 180 degree, right? This corresponds to 180 degree and this corresponds to 360 degree. So I'm saying that when it completes to 180 degree, okay, my system is basically something like this. It follows or lags behind by 180 degree. So it is completely out of phase. When this one is maximum, this one is negative minimum and vice versa. Okay, so this is called out of phase. Okay, and this you can imagine if you have a very fast moving object on this mass here, what will actually happen? This would have very small deformation. The response, the dynamic response U naught would be actually very small. Why? Because it moves at such a high rate that it is not even able to produce some this or any response to this system. The system does not even react to a very high frequency. And although I'm drawing here, you can see the frequency which is finite. I'm saying that it's a very large quantity. So it's very high frequency motion. If you apply it to the structure won't even move. Okay. Okay, these were the two extreme cases. One additional discussion is required on a case when omega by omega n is equal to 1, right? And when omega by omega n is equal to 1, my RD or the response modification factor in this case, I get as 1 by 2 zeta. Okay, so the response at, let us say it is resonance. Okay, response at omega by omega equal to 1 is controlled by the damping in the system. Okay, now if you look at the graph here, okay, if you look at the graph here, what do you actually see? As I increase my damping from 0.01 to 0.1, the maximum reduction in response is obtained at this point, right? It is, let us say, this much. However, at a very small value of the frequency ratio, it is again very small, and same for a very high value of frequency ratio, it is again very small. So the effect of damping is actually maximum at the response. The whole response at the resonance is controlled by the damping in the system. Okay, and what happens to the phase? Well, phase angle becomes 90 degree. So it is basically lagging by 90 degree. Okay, so as it goes here, it starts, and after 90 degree, it reaches 0 and so on. Okay, something like this. So this is actually corresponds to a phase angle of 90 degree. All right, so these three cases completely define typical behavior of a system, because what are the two things that are important in a single degree of freedom system? You have a single degree of freedom system with a dashpot. Okay, basically the property of this structure is the mass, the stiffness, and the damping ratio, and then you are applying a force P naught sine omega t. Frequency of this one is omega n, right? So how would this system behave? Okay, a qualitative discussion would be based on the value of omega by omega n and the damping ratio. Okay, this is qualitative discussion. Of course, quantitative discussion we have already done. How to get the response, right? We have already done that. Okay, so using these values, you could actually tell, and this is a very important step for designer. A designer should be able to, without doing much calculation, should be able to look at a system and come up with some initial, let us say, ideas that how should I go about it. Okay, and to do that, we should have a very good understanding of the dynamic behavior of the system before you even get into exact calculations. Okay, is this up to this point clear to all of you? Any doubt up to this point? Anyone? If you would like me to explain or repeat anything,
Sir,
make sure you clarify your doubts. Yeah, who's this?
Ravi.
Yeah, Ravi.
Sir, in the first place, the response is controlled by the stiffness.
Yes.
So in the second case, the response is controlled by mass.
Well, you could say it is controlled by mass in some way, but I'm just assuming it is going to a very small value. In some books you'll find they say that it is controlled by mass. Why do they say that? because if you consider the expression for RD, right?
Yes.
If you take the expression for RD here, what do you see here? This, when omega by omega n is a very, very large value, this has omega by omega n to the power 4, right?
Yes, sir.
And this is only omega by omega n to the power square, this one. So
Yes.
when omega by omega n is very large, you can ignore this term, and then you would only have this term. Of course, you can also ignore 1 here because omega by omega n is very large. So RD basically becomes under root omega by omega n to the power 4. Okay, so in second case, what happens? RD is basically omega by omega square if once you take it to the numerator. And what is omega square by omega n? This is nothing but omega n square is k by m times omega square. Okay, and in this case, you can say that, well, this is my dynamic response by static response. Okay, so it is controlled by the mass of the system, because if k is fixed and the applied frequency is fixed, dynamic response is now controlled by the mass of the system. But I did not want to discuss that because it does not matter in terms of amplitude, because it is going to a very small quantity anyway. Okay, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay,